Yo guys, what's up and welcome to another tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how Wheezy makes crazy guitar and flute samples in the style of Gunna Young Thug. So first I'm going to show you all the sample, then I'm going to break it down and show you how I mixed and mastered it. And then after that I'm going to show you how I made a crazy beat to the sample. So make sure to stay till the end, make sure to like the video and to comment something cool. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. And thank y'all for 1.6k. Y'all been going crazy in the last few weeks and I will drop a new pack. So make sure to subscribe and to activate the bell. I will be live streaming a lot from now on as well. And as I said, make sure to stay till the end and let's go on with the video. So for the first thing I used contact and I used the Ilya Efimov nylon guitar with the Modern Bossa preset, I think that's how you pronounce it. And I made this pretty simple and repetitive guitar melody. As you can see, I just made this 4-bar loop and then just copied it over, but changed it up a bit in the end. I randomized the velocities just to make it sound more realistic, and this is how the finished guitar pattern is sounding like. And for the effects on this guitar, I had this fruity parametric EQ just to get rid of some of the unwanted and unnecessary frequencies. Then I had this A1 serial control where I had the safe bass option and the stereo width option. Then this RC20 with the producer grind color dark mono preset. I just turned off the noise and the digital, I think. Then I used Portal with the EC1 growth speed preset, which you can find in the Experiment Club 1 bank from producer grind as well. And I turned down the mix to about 50%. Then I had this Apex vintage exciter just to make the guitar sound more realistic. This Valhalla vintage verb where I tweaked the mix, the decay and the low cut. And then this EQ just to get rid of some of the lows and to boost the highs and the mids. Then for the next thing I had Falcon with the Andy or Ande flute, and I had the blow preset on, and I laid down this pretty simple pattern. It looks pretty complex because of them filler notes right here. It's basically just to make the flute sound more realistic. Same as randomizing the velocities, which I did again. And I mostly laid down notes and triplets because I heard Wheezy using that a lot. And again, it's a pretty repetitive pattern. I laid down this 4-bar loop and then just copied it over and switched it up in the end again. And this is how the finished flute pattern is sounding like. Then for the effects on this flute, I had this EQ just to get rid of all the unwanted and unnecessary frequencies. Then this RC20 just for the wobble. This Valhalla vintage verb where I tweaked the mix and the decay. Then this EQ where I cut out a lot of the lows because they were just unnecessary for the whole sample. And this Zoof just to get rid of all the unwanted and left frequencies that I didn't want to be in the sample. And I turned the knob down to about 0.8. Then what I did for the next thing was grabbing this crash, which is called Band Crash. It's from Bolt Carlos Kid. And I basically just reversed the crash in the first part. Then just left it how it was in the second part. And I put 2 Portal presets on it, which I will show after I previewed these crashes. And these are basically just there to give it some texture, and they sound like this. And as you can hear, they're pretty quiet, but as I said, they're just there to give it some texture. And for the effects, I had the Sparks preset from Portal from the Enviril Enigma bank, which you can find right here. And this EC1 Word preset from the Producer Grind bank again, which you can find here. And I had this Panman just to pan it from left to right, obviously. This Zoof on the hard setting, and I turned the knob to 7.2. And then this EQ just to get rid of some of the lows and some of the highs, just to duck it more to the background. And what I did after that was just randoming out these crashes and turning off the effects. Then for the first one, I just pitched it down by 12. Then for the second one, I pitched it down by 24, and for the third one I pitched it down by 36, and I will turn up them crashes just that y'all can hear them, and this is how these crashes are sounding like. Then for the next thing I had this percloop, which is out of my Stash Kit Volume 2, the link for that will be in my description. And I just time stretched it and turned down the volume by a lot, and I normalized it, and this is how the finished percloop is sounding like. And for the effects, I had the same effects that I had on the crash, just without the Portal presets. Then for the second part of the sample, I had this vocal from Vision EXE's kit. I had to bring it into key, which I did by pitching it up by 3, then pitching it up by 5 and by 6. And I basically just pitched them up to give them vocals some variation, and this is how these finished vocals are sounding like. Then for the effects on the vocals, I had this compressor from Waves where I compressed it by a lot, because the vocal is basically just there to give it some texture and some variation for the whole sample, so it doesn't really matter how I compress it, I guess. Then I had this EQ just to get rid of a lot of the frequencies that I didn't like. Then this reverb with these settings. Then this Soothe just to get rid of all the unwanted frequencies after the reverb. Then this EQ where I got rid of a lot of the lows and a lot of the highs and a lot of the frequencies that I didn't like, but just by a tiny bit. And that's basically it for the vocals. Then for the bass, I had this Azilia bass from Bold Carlos kit again, and it may look complex, but it's a pretty simple bass line. I had a few slides right here just to give it some variation, and I randomized the velocities by a tiny bit just to make the bass sound more realistic, and this is how the finished bass line is sounding like. Then for the effects on this bass, I had this fully fast distortion with these settings. Then this EQ just to get rid of some of the harsh frequencies. This EQ where I got rid of one harsh frequency and for a tiny low cut, and I put it 100% in mono. Then after that, for my mastering chain, I had this A1 stereo control with these settings. Then this RC20 for the noise, the wobble, the distortion, the magnetic, and the EQ. Then this plugin, I don't know what it really does, but I think it just boosts the highs but in a different way and makes it just sound better with the mix on 23%. Then this Goodhertz WAV compressor with these settings. This Soothe on its basic settings, and this EQ where I cut out an unnecessary frequency, and that's basically it for my mastering chain. And then after I rendered the sample out, I normalized it, put the declicking mode on generic, put the mode on stretch, and put it on the 8th mixer track. And on the 8th mixer track, I have this fully parametric EQ where I cut out a lot of the frequencies that were just unnecessary and unwanted, I guess. Then I had the sound shift, the pitch stereo from Waves where I pitch it up by 6 semitones, and I had this EQ where I cut out some of the muddy lows, lowered the volume of the bass, and to cut out one unnecessary frequency, and this is how the finished sample is sounding like. So now I just finished making the beat, and the first thing I did was obviously dragging in the sample, and what I did was basically just putting the mode on stretch, putting the declicking mode on generic, and putting the trim knob fully in. And the first element I added for the beat was this hi-hat, which is the hack hi-hat from my stash kit, and I laid down this pretty simple pattern. As y'all can see, I played with the velocities just a tiny bit, and the whole pattern is sounding like this. Then for the next thing, I had this recycle clap for my stash kit again, and I laid down this pretty basic clap pattern. It's just with a bit of variation right here and a bit of variation in the velocity as well, and the whole clap pattern is sounding like this. Then for the next thing, I added this short open hat from my stash kit again, and it's basically just there to give them 808s more punch, and it's just a basic pattern as you can see on the 1, 3, 5 and 7, and it sounds like this. Then after that, I used this 808 open hat. This open hat always just hits when the 808 hits, so it gives it more punch as well, and it sounds like this. And then for the last thing, I had this 808 pattern, which is pretty simple besides at the end. And I just laid down these notes on the root note from the sample, and I played a bit with it right here, and right there I had a few rolls right here, and the whole 808 pattern with the full beat is sounding like this. So yeah guys, if you all enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and to subscribe to my channel. Make sure to comment something cool just to get this video into the algorithm so everybody sees it. And as I said, thank you for this crazy support. Make sure to activate the post notifications because I will be live streaming a lot from now on, as I said. Make sure to follow me on all my socials, the links for that will be in my description. And yeah guys, see y'all.